Lieutenant Colonel Kang Hyun was drinking his morning coffee when the world changed forever. He stood in the control tower at Osan Air Base, watching his pilots run their morning exercises. The sun was just coming up over the mountains, painting the sky orange and pink. It was a normal Tuesday in South Korea. Then the radar operator started shouting, "Sir, we have contacts. Multiple contacts. They're huge." Kang Hyun put down his coffee and walked over to the radar screen. What he saw made no sense. Dozens of objects were appearing in the sky above Seoul. They were massive, bigger than any aircraft he had ever seen. And they were just sitting there floating in the air like they weighed nothing. "Are those ours?" he asked. "No, sir. They're not American either. Or Chinese. Or anyone else we know." Kang Hyun grabbed his radio. "All pilots return to base immediately. This is not a drill." Across the world, the same thing was happening. In New York, London, Tokyo, Moscow, and every other major city, giant ships appeared in the sky. They were silver and smooth with no visible engines or wings. They just hung there, silent and still. Dr. Park Soo-jin was in her lab at Seoul National University when her phone started buzzing with emergency alerts. She was a physicist who studied how things moved through space. When she looked out her window and saw the ships floating above the city, she knew immediately that Earth was dealing with something beyond human technology. The ships were defying gravity. That should have been impossible with any technology humans had developed. These visitors had mastered forces that human science was only beginning to understand. Within an hour, every news channel in the world was showing the same images. The ships were everywhere. They didn't attack. They didn't communicate. They just waited. Fleet Admiral Thex Mora stood on the bridge of his flagship looking down at the blue and green planet below. This was his 17th conquest, and it would be his easiest yet. The inhabitants of this world called it Earth, and they were primitives. Their most advanced weapons were crude chemical rockets and simple nuclear devices. They had barely managed to put a few small stations in orbit around their planet. "How long until they surrender?" asked his second in command. "The others took an average of 18 hours, Thex Mora replied. "These humans might take longer. They seem more violent than most species. Look at their planet. They're fighting wars with each other even now." This was true. Earth was covered with the signs of conflict. The aliens could see military bases, weapons factories, and active war zones. What they didn't understand was that this constant fighting had made humans very good at war. "Shall we begin the demonstration?" his officer asked. "Not yet. Let them see us first. Let them understand how outmatched they are." The aliens had conquered 17 worlds using the same method. First they appeared and let the local population see their superior technology. Then they made a few demonstrations of power. Finally, they demanded surrender. It always worked, but Earth was different from the other worlds they had conquered. Those planets had unified governments and peaceful societies. Earth had almost 200 different nations, most of them armed and many of them hostile to each other. When the ships appeared, world leaders tried to communicate with each other. The United Nations called an emergency meeting. Military commanders contacted their allies. Everyone wanted to know what was happening and what to do about it. Kang Hyun received orders to scramble his fighters for reconnaissance. He chose his best pilots and sent them up to get a closer look at the alien ships. The jets climbed high into the sky, their cameras recording everything. What they found was both amazing and terrifying. The alien ships were enormous, some of them over a mile long. They had no visible weapons, but they were clearly built for war. Their hulls were covered in strange geometric patterns that seemed to shift and change when you looked at them. "They're beautiful," one pilot reported over the radio, "but they're also scary as hell." The jets circled the ships for an hour, taking pictures and measurements. The aliens didn't respond. They just let the humans look. Dr. Park Soo-jin was called to an emergency meeting at the Blue House, the presidential residence. Scientists, military officers, and government officials gathered to discuss what they were facing. "What do you think they want?" the president asked. "Unknown," Park Soo-jin replied, "but they're clearly more advanced than us. Those ships are using technology we don't understand. They're not using any propulsion system we can identify. Could we fight them if we had to?" The room fell silent. Everyone knew the answer, but nobody wanted to say it out loud. Finally, General Kim spoke up. "Our weapons might not even scratch their hulls, but if they wanted to destroy us, they could have done it already. The fact that they're just sitting there suggests they want something from us. They didn't have to wait long to find out what." At exactly noon, Local time in every major city on Earth, the alien ships began to broadcast. The message came in perfect Korean, English, Spanish, Chinese, Arabic, and every other major language on the planet. "People of Earth," the voice said. It was cold and mechanical, clearly artificial. "We are the Velkari Empire. Your world has been selected for integration into our domain. You will surrender all weapons and submit to our authority. Your species will be preserved as a client race under our protection. You have 72 hours to comply. Resistance is futile." The message repeated 3 times, then stopped. Kang Hyun listened to the broadcast from his command center. Around him, his staff looked shocked and afraid. Some of them were crying. Others were angry. "Sir," his communications officer said, "we're getting calls from bases all over the world. Everyone wants to know what we're going to do." Kang Hyun thought about his daughter, who was studying at university in Seoul. He thought about his parents, who had lived through the Korean War and taught him that freedom was worth fighting for. He thought about all the pilots under his command, young men and women who had sworn to defend their country. "Get me General Kim," he said, "and contact every airbase in the Alliance. Tell them we need to talk." Across the planet, similar conversations were happening. In bunkers and command centers, military leaders were making the same decision. The aliens had made a critical error. They had given humanity time to think, time to plan, and time to prepare. They had also united every human on Earth against a common enemy for the first time in history. The Velkari Empire was about to learn why that was a very dangerous mistake. The 72-hour deadline was counting down and the world was going crazy. Some countries were already writing surrender documents. Others were moving their militaries into hiding. Most people were just scared and confused, but not everyone was giving up. Captain Lee DeHai stood on the deck of her destroyer in Busan Harbor, watching the alien ships through her binoculars. She had been in the Navy for 15 years and had learned to notice patterns. The alien ships moved in formations, but they followed the same routes every time. They patrolled at the same times every day. They were predictable. "They fly like they've never been in a real fight," she told her first officer. "Look at how they space themselves. No overlapping fields of fire. No backup positions. They're flying like they're in a parade." Her ship was one of 12 South Korean naval vessels that had refused orders to return to port and surrender. They were hiding among the islands along the coast, keeping their radios silent and their engines quiet. Colonel Kim Tae-ho was having the same thoughts from his position in the mountains near the DMZ. He had spent 20 years in the army, including tours with UN peacekeeping forces in Africa and the Middle East. He knew how real armies fought, and the aliens weren't acting like real soldiers. "They're amateurs," he told Major Choi Young-soo over an encrypted radio channel. "They've got fancy toys, but they don't know how to use them in a fight." Kim had been reaching out to military units around the world through secret channels. What he was learning gave him hope. The aliens had superior technology, but they were making basic tactical mistakes. They weren't securing their supply lines. They weren't establishing proper defensive positions. They weren't even posting guards at important locations. Commander Songmira was learning the same thing from her submarine in the Yellow Sea. Her sonar operator had been tracking alien movements underwater, and what he found was shocking. The aliens had no underwater defenses at all. Their ships couldn't even detect submarines that were sitting right beneath them. "It's like they've never fought anyone who could fight back," Song told her crew. "They're treating this like a police action, not a war." Meanwhile, Dr. Park Soo-jin was making the discovery that would change everything. A small alien scout ship had crashed during the first day, probably due to mechanical failure. The aliens had sent recovery teams, but human special forces had gotten there first. Park and her team had been studying the wreckage for 2 days. What they found was amazing and terrifying at the same time. The alien technology was incredibly advanced, but it had weaknesses. "Their shields work on a specific frequency," she explained to Jang Do-hyun, an engineer from Samsung who had been called in to help. "If we can disrupt that frequency, the shields fail completely. Can we do that with our technology?" Jang asked. "Maybe. We'll need to modify our electronics, but it's possible." More importantly, they had captured 3 alien soldiers during the recovery operation. Under questioning, the aliens revealed something crucial about their empire. They had never fought a species that refused to surrender. Every world they had conquered had given up after the first demonstration of alien power. "They don't understand us," Park realized. They think that because we fight each other, we must be weak. They don't realize that fighting each other has made us very good at fighting. Han Jae-sung was discovering the same thing from his computer terminal at the National Intelligence Service. He had been tracking alien ship movements for 3 days, and the patterns were becoming clear. The aliens followed schedules. They had routine patrol routes. They even took breaks at the same time every day. They're like robots, he told his supervisor. They do everything by the book. No improvisation, no adaptation. This was valuable intelligence, and Han was sharing it with military units around the world through secure networks. Human forces were beginning to understand their enemy. Staff Sergeant Bae Soo-bin was putting this intelligence to good use. She led a special forces team that had been conducting reconnaissance missions behind enemy lines. What she found confirmed what everyone else was learning. The aliens were overconfident and careless. They're not even posting guards, she reported after a successful mission to observe an alien landing site. They just park their ships and walk around like they own the place. No security perimeter, no watch posts, nothing. Her team had gotten within 50 meters of an alien transport without being detected. They had taken photographs, recorded communications, and even planted listening devices. The aliens never knew they were there. But the most important discovery came when Bae's team captured an alien patrol unit. The 3 aliens surrendered immediately when surrounded, which shocked the human soldiers. Most species fought to the death when cornered. These aliens just gave up. During interrogation, the captured aliens revealed the fatal flaw in their thinking. They believed that any species that fought wars with itself had to be weak and divided. They couldn't understand how humans could unite against an external threat while still maintaining their competitive nature. Your species confuses us, one alien admitted. You fight each other constantly, yet you also work together. This is not logical. Logic has nothing to do with it, Bae replied. We fight each other because we're competitive. But when someone from outside threatens our family, we stick together. That's just human nature. The alien looked even more confused. Around the world, similar discoveries were being made. Human military units were learning that alien technology, while advanced, was not invincible. More importantly, they were learning that the aliens themselves were not the superior warriors they pretended to be. Admiral Theximora was becoming worried. The 72-hour deadline was approaching, and Earth's governments had not responded with surrender documents. Some nations were negotiating, but others were silent. Worse, his reconnaissance teams were reporting strange activities. Human military units were moving into hiding positions. Weapons were being moved and concealed. The population was not panicking as expected. Perhaps we should begin the demonstration phase, his second-in-command suggested. Theximora agreed. It was time to show these humans what happened to species that refused to surrender. The demonstration began at dawn on the 3rd day. Alien ships moved into position over major military installations around the world. Energy beams lanced down from the sky, melting tanks and aircraft with surgical precision. The message was clear. Human weapons were useless against alien technology, but the demonstration had an unexpected effect. Instead of terrorizing humanity into surrender, it revealed crucial information about alien capabilities. Human observers noted that the energy beams took time to charge between shots. The alien ships had to stop moving to fire accurately. Most importantly, they seemed to have limited ammunition or power. Major Shin Dong-wook watched the demonstration from a hidden position near Seoul. He was a special forces officer who had served in multiple international missions. What he saw gave him ideas. They're showing off, he radioed to other units. They could have destroyed those bases completely, but they're just doing selective strikes. They want to intimidate us, not eliminate us. This was valuable intelligence. The aliens needed humans alive for some reason. That gave humanity leverage, even if they didn't know what that leverage was yet. As the 72-hour deadline passed without surrender, something unprecedented happened in galactic history. For the first time, a species had refused to submit to the Velkari Empire. Admiral Theximora stared at his communications screen in disbelief. Not only had Earth's governments refused to surrender, but some of them had sent defiant messages. The most shocking came from a small nation that had been at war with its neighbors for decades. We have been fighting for survival our entire history, the message read. You are just another enemy. We will fight you the same way we fought all the others, with everything we have for as long as it takes. For the first time in his military career, Thexmora realized he might have made a mistake. On Earth, humanity was discovering something they had never experienced before: unity against a common enemy. Ancient feuds were being set aside. Competing nations were sharing intelligence. Enemies were becoming allies. The aliens had given them the one thing humanity had never had: a reason to stop fighting each other and start fighting together. It was about to become the most expensive mistake in galactic history. 2 weeks after the deadline passed, Admiral Thexmora was beginning to understand that he had seriously underestimated humanity. What was supposed to be a simple occupation had turned into something he had never experienced before: actual resistance. The aliens controlled the major cities and had destroyed several military bases, but human forces kept fighting. They hid in forests, mountains, and underground tunnels. They attacked alien patrols and then disappeared before reinforcements could arrive. Most frustrating of all, they seemed to be getting better at fighting every day. Major Shin Dong-wook crouched in a subway tunnel beneath Seoul, studying reconnaissance photos of alien positions. Around him, soldiers from 6 different countries worked together, planning their next attack. American, British, German, Japanese, Australian, and Korean special forces had formed an international unit that the aliens couldn't track or predict. "They're creatures of habit," Shin explained to his team. "Every alien patrol follows the same route at the same time every day. They stop at the same places. They even take breaks on schedule." This predictability was becoming a major weakness for the Valkyrie. Human forces had learned to ambush alien patrols by simply waiting at the right place at the right time. The aliens never seemed to learn from these attacks or change their patterns. Dr. Yoon Hai-won had been working in hidden laboratories throughout the city, studying captured alien equipment. Her team had made several breakthrough discoveries that were changing the nature of the conflict. "Their shields are powerful, but they have a critical flaw," she explained to a group of military officers. "The aliens can't fire their weapons through their own shields. When they want to shoot, they have to drop their protection." This discovery led to new tactics. Human forces began using captured alien shields defensively, while employing conventional weapons for attacks. The aliens were confused by this hybrid approach and couldn't develop effective countermeasures. Even more importantly, Yoon had discovered that alien equipment was not designed for extended combat. Their weapons overheated quickly. Their armor was strong but inflexible. Their vehicles were fast but couldn't handle rough terrain. "They're built for intimidation, not actual fighting," she reported. "Everything is designed to look impressive and end conflicts quickly. Nothing is built to last in a prolonged war." Namkite was proving this point every day. Before the invasion, he had been an Olympic archer. Now he was one of the most effective snipers in the resistance. He had discovered that alien armor had weak points at the joints and that their helmets couldn't deflect bullets that hit at precise angles. "They're tall and they stand up straight," he explained to other snipers. "They don't take cover properly. They don't move unpredictably. They're easy targets if you know where to aim." Kaite had developed techniques for defeating alien soldiers using conventional weapons. His methods were being shared with resistance fighters around the world, and alien casualties were mounting. Oh Min-jung had made similar discoveries about alien vehicles. As a combat medic, she understood anatomy and weak points. When she switched to demolitions work, she applied the same thinking to alien technology. "Their transports have no armor on the bottom," she told her team after a successful mission. "They assume no one will attack from below. If you can get under one of their vehicles, a simple explosive charge will disable it completely." Min-jung's team had destroyed 6 alien transports using this method. Each successful attack provided more intelligence about alien weaknesses and more captured equipment for human forces to study. Captain Ryu Jung-ho was coordinating these discoveries into a comprehensive understanding of alien capabilities and limitations. As an Army intelligence officer, he had been trained to analyze enemy forces and develop countermeasures. "The aliens have superior technology, but they're terrible soldiers," he reported to military commanders worldwide. "They rely completely on their equipment. When their technology fails, they don't know what to do." Seong-ho had documented dozens of incidents where aliens became helpless when their equipment was damaged or disrupted. They didn't know how to fight without their advanced weapons. They couldn't navigate without their computers. They couldn't even communicate effectively without their translation devices. This over-reliance on technology was becoming a major vulnerability. Human forces began targeting alien equipment specifically, knowing that disabling their tools was more effective than trying to kill the aliens themselves. The Resistance was also learning to exploit alien psychology. The Velkari were used to overwhelming technological superiority and quick surrender. They had never faced an enemy that adapted and improved during combat. Human forces began using this against them. They would attack the same targets using different methods each time, forcing the aliens to constantly adjust their defenses. They would capture alien equipment and use it in unexpected ways. Most importantly, they would retreat and regroup whenever the aliens brought superior firepower to bear, denying them the decisive battles they wanted. Admiral Thex Mora was becoming increasingly frustrated. His forces controlled the major population centers, but they couldn't stop the constant attacks on his supply lines and patrol units. Worse, the humans seemed to be learning his tactics faster than he could develop new ones. How are they coordinating these attacks? He demanded from his intelligence officers. They have no central command structure. Their governments are in hiding or destroyed. How are they sharing information so effectively? The answer would have surprised him. Humanity was using the same networks they had used to fight each other for decades. Military communication systems, intelligence sharing protocols, and international cooperation agreements that had been developed for previous conflicts were being adapted for use against the alien invaders. Social media, gaming networks, and civilian internet connections were also being used to coordinate resistance activities. The aliens could monitor official military communications, but they couldn't track the thousands of unofficial channels that humans use to share information. Even more importantly, human military doctrine was designed for fighting against other humans who were equally intelligent and adaptable. The tactics and strategies that had been developed through centuries of warfare against equally capable opponents were proving devastatingly effective against aliens who had never faced serious resistance. Dr. Ko Woo-sung had been monitoring alien communications from a hidden facility outside Seoul. What he discovered changed everything. They're not treating this as a war, he reported to resistance leaders. They're treating it as a police action. Listen to their communications. They talk about pacification and civil order. They think we're criminals, not soldiers. This explained many of the aliens' tactical mistakes. Police actions were designed to maintain order among cooperative populations. They were not designed for fighting against organized military resistance. The aliens were using crowd control tactics against guerrilla fighters. They were trying to maintain infrastructure in areas they didn't fully control. They were even attempting to provide services to human populations that actively opposed them. They're trying to win our cooperation, Ko realized. They think if they can provide better government services than our own leaders, we'll accept their rule willingly. This fundamental misunderstanding of human psychology was becoming a strategic weakness. The aliens couldn't comprehend that humans would prefer to suffer under their own governments rather than prosper under foreign rule. As the third week of resistance began, human forces had achieved something unprecedented in galactic history. They had forced a technologically superior enemy into a defensive posture. The aliens were no longer expanding their control. Instead, they were struggling to maintain what they had already captured. Across the planet, resistance cells were sharing intelligence, coordinating attacks, and developing new tactics. For the first time in human history, the entire species was working together toward a common goal. The aliens had created the very thing they feared most, a united humanity that knew how to fight. 6 months into what the aliens had expected to be a 3-day occupation, the situation on Earth had become something the Velkari Empire had never encountered, a military disaster. Colonel An Byung-soo stood in an underground command center that had been carved out of the mountains near the DMZ. Representatives from every major nation on Earth surrounded him, all wearing the same expression of grim determination. The Human Defense Coalition had been formed out of necessity, uniting former enemies under a single command structure for the first time in history. "Ladies and gentlemen," An announced, "we have developed what our analysts are calling the Terran Doctrine. It's a new way of fighting that uses our strengths against their weaknesses." The Terran Doctrine was revolutionary in its simplicity. Instead of trying to match alien technology, human forces would exploit alien psychology. Instead of fighting where the aliens were strong, humans would fight where the aliens were weak. Instead of seeking decisive battles, Humans would wage a war of constant adaptation. Lieutenant Jung Soo-yeon had been the first to successfully implement these principles. Her Special Forces team had infiltrated an alien command ship, using a combination of captured alien technology and modified human equipment. What they found inside changed everything. Their command structure is completely rigid, she reported after the mission. Every decision has to go up the chain of command and back down again. When we killed their senior officers, the remaining aliens couldn't function. They just stood there waiting for orders that never came. Soo-yeon's raid had provided crucial intelligence about alien organization. The Valkyrie military was built for overwhelming force and quick victory. They had no doctrine for dealing with prolonged resistance or unconventional tactics. This discovery led to a new strategy: decapitation strikes against alien leadership. Human forces began targeting alien commanders specifically, knowing that removing key officers would paralyze entire units. Dr. Ko Woo-sung had made an even more disturbing discovery about alien communications. While monitoring their transmissions, he had intercepted messages from the Valkyrie High Command that revealed their true situation. They're treating this as a police action, not a war, he explained to the coalition leadership. Their ships are designed for intimidation and crowd control, not military combat. Their soldiers are trained for peacekeeping duties, not fighting against armed resistance. This explained why alien forces were so ineffective in prolonged combat. They had superior technology, but they lacked the training and mindset necessary for real warfare. Major Im Ye-jin had been developing psychological warfare tactics specifically designed to exploit this weakness. Her team had been broadcasting messages that questioned alien military competence and suggested that their empire might not be as powerful as it claimed. "Doubt is our most effective weapon," she explained. "These aliens have never failed before. They don't know how to handle defeat. If we can make them question their own abilities, they'll start making even more mistakes." Ye-jin's propaganda was having an unexpected effect. Not only was it demoralizing alien forces on Earth, but it was also reaching other parts of the Valkyrie Empire through their own communication networks. For the first time, conquered worlds were hearing about successful resistance against their overlords. This was causing problems throughout the Valkyrie Empire that went far beyond Earth. Subject populations were beginning to ask questions about their own subjugation. If primitive humans could resist the mighty Valkyrie, why couldn't they? The alien high command finally recognized the scope of the problem and decided to escalate. Admiral Thexmora was relieved of command and replaced with War Commander Veltash, a veteran of the Empire's few actual military conflicts. Veltash arrived with a battle fleet designed for serious warfare, not intimidation. These ships had heavier armor, more powerful weapons, and crews trained for extended combat. The aliens were finally taking humanity seriously as a military threat. But humanity had spent 6 months studying alien psychology, technology, and tactics. They were ready. Seo Dong-min had been crucial to this preparation. Before the invasion, he had designed strategy games that simulated complex military conflicts. Now he was applying those same analytical skills to predicting alien behavior. "They fight like computers," he explained to coalition planners. "They follow algorithms and protocols. Once you understand their programming, you can predict their moves and counter them." Dongmin had identified patterns in alien decision-making that allowed human forces to anticipate their strategies. This predictability was becoming a major advantage for human forces. When Veltash's battle fleet arrived, they found Earth's defenders prepared for them. Human forces had reverse-engineered enough alien technology to level the playing field while retaining their tactical advantages. The first battle took place over the Pacific Ocean. Captain Kwan Jihai led a squadron of hybrid fighters that combined human piloting skills with captured alien technology. Her pilots used conventional human tactics that completely confused the alien commanders. "They expect us to fight in formation," she radioed to her squadron. "Instead, we're going to fight like individuals, break formation and engage at will." Human pilots began using aggressive maneuvering, unpredictable attack patterns, and a willingness to sacrifice their aircraft for strategic advantage. These tactics were alien to the Valkyrie, who had been trained to fight in coordinated formations with minimal losses. The result was chaos in the alien ranks. Their pilots couldn't adapt to the unpredictable human tactics. Their commanders couldn't coordinate responses to attacks that followed no recognizable pattern. On the ground, Master Sergeant Hong Min Seok was leading similar operations. His forces combined alien technology with human innovation in ways that the aliens had never imagined possible. They think their equipment can only be used one way, he explained to his troops. But we're going to show them they're wrong. Hong's forces used alien energy weapons as improvised explosives. They turned alien vehicles into mobile shields. They even used alien communication devices to confuse and misdirect enemy forces. These unconventional applications of alien technology were devastating to Velkari morale. They couldn't understand how their own superior equipment was being turned against them by primitive humans. Dr. Lim Yunbi made the discovery that ended the war. While studying captured alien computer systems, she found that they were vulnerable to human computer viruses in ways their creators had never anticipated. Their cybersecurity is designed to prevent attacks from other artificial intelligences, she explained. They never considered the possibility of attacks from organic minds that think differently than machines. Human computer viruses evolved and adapted in ways that alien cybersecurity couldn't predict or counter. They learned, mutated, and spread through alien networks like biological infections. When human forces gained access to the alien faster-than-light communication system, they could suddenly monitor and disrupt Velkari operations throughout their empire. The final blow came when Park Jin-woo, a former cyber warfare specialist, used the alien communication network to broadcast a message throughout the Velkari Empire. "The humans of Terra have defeated your invincible fleet," the message declared. "Your empire told you we were primitive and weak. Ask yourselves, what else have they lied about?" This message reached every conquered world in the Velkari Empire simultaneously. For the first time, subject populations learned that their overlords could be defeated. The psychological impact was devastating. War Commander Veltash watched his empire begin to crumble from within as rebellions broke out on dozens of worlds. The Terra problem had become an existential threat to Velkari civilization. He made the decision that would echo through galactic history: retreat from Earth before the human infection could spread further. Humanity had won not through superior firepower, but through superior adaptability. They had turned their greatest weakness, their tendency to fight each other, into their greatest strength against an external enemy. The galaxy was about to learn a lesson that humans had known for millennia. The best way to ensure peace is to be very, very good at war. The Velkari battle fleet had retreated beyond the outer edge of the solar system, but War Commander Veltash wasn't giving up. He had been ordered to pacify Earth by any means necessary, and failure would mean the end of his career and possibly his life. "Prepare for total planetary bombardment," he ordered his fleet commanders. "We will sterilize the surface and rebuild their civilization under our direct control." But Veltash had made the same mistake as his predecessor. He assumed that humans would behave like every other species the Velkari had encountered. He expected them to panic when faced with extinction and beg for mercy. Admiral Lee Sang-woo received the alien ultimatum while standing in the command center of humanity's first space-based defense platform. The facility had been built in secret over the past 6 months using captured alien technology and human engineering. It represented everything that made humanity dangerous: the ability to adapt, innovate, and unite when threatened. "They're giving us 24 hours to surrender unconditionally," Lee announced to the coalition leadership. After that, they planned to destroy every city on Earth. The response was immediate and unanimous. Every nation on Earth had already voted. There would be no surrender. "Then we show them what humans do when we're cornered," Lee declared. The final battle began at dawn. The alien fleet moved into Earth orbit with the intention of conducting a systematic bombardment of the planet's surface. They expected no resistance, since humans supposedly had no space-based weapons capable of threatening their ships. They were wrong. Captain Kwon Ji-hai led the first wave of human spacecraft into battle. Her ships were hybrids that combined alien technology with human innovation in ways that defied conventional military thinking. They were smaller than alien vessels, but faster and more maneuverable. Most importantly, they were crewed by humans who had spent their entire species' history learning how to fight. "Remember," she transmitted to her pilots, "they expect us to fight like them. Formation flying, coordinated attacks, minimal casualties. We're going to do the opposite. Human pilots began using tactics that seemed insane to alien observers. They rammed alien ships at full speed, ejecting at the last moment to be picked up by rescue craft. They used their own vessels as improvised missiles, targeting alien weapons and engines. They even turned damaged human ships into explosive charges, timing detonations for maximum effect. The alien formation began to collapse under these suicidal attacks. Velkhari commanders had never faced an enemy willing to sacrifice individual units for strategic advantage. Their doctrine assumed that all intelligent species would prioritize self-preservation above tactical objectives. Master Sergeant Hong Min-seok was leading the ground-based phase of the operation. Using captured alien teleportation technology, his forces began materializing inside alien ships. What followed was close-quarters combat for which the aliens were completely unprepared. They're tall, they're strong, and their armor is impressive, Hong told his assault teams. But they've never fought anyone hand-to-hand. They don't know how to handle close combat. Human soldiers had been training in zero-gravity combat for months using captured alien equipment. They knew how to fight in the cramped corridors of alien ships. They understood how to use human weapons in alien environments. Most importantly, they were comfortable with violence in ways that their enemies were not. The Velkhari had spent millennia using technology to avoid physical confrontation. When human soldiers appeared in their command centers with conventional weapons, they panicked. Many alien crews surrendered immediately rather than face human boarding. Party's Dr. Lim Yunbi was coordinating the cyber warfare component of the battle from her hidden facility on Earth. Her team had spent months developing computer viruses specifically designed to attack alien systems. Now they were deploying them through the alien communication network. Their computers are like their tactics, she explained to her team. Rigid, predictable, and vulnerable to chaos. Human viruses began spreading through the alien fleet's computer systems. Navigation failed. Weapon systems shut down. Communication networks became unreliable. Most devastating of all, the viruses began transmitting human propaganda directly to alien crew members. Your empire has lied to you, the messages declared. Humans are not primitive. They are not weak. They have defeated every force you have sent against them. How many more of your people must die for the pride of your commanders? This psychological warfare was having a devastating effect on alien morale. Many Velkhari soldiers had never experienced defeat before. The idea that their empire might be fallible was more shocking than any physical weapon. Park Jin-woo had taken cyber warfare one step further. His team had gained complete access to the alien faster-than-light communication system and was using it to coordinate rebellions throughout the Velkhari Empire. The humans have won. Messages were being broadcast to every conquered world. The mighty Velkhari fleet has been defeated by a species they called primitive. If humans can resist, so can you. The effect was immediate and devastating. Rebellions broke out on dozens of worlds simultaneously. The Velkhari Empire was facing the collapse of their entire civilization, all because they had underestimated one small blue planet. War Commander Veltash watched his fleet disintegrate around him. Half his ships had been destroyed or captured. Most of his remaining crews were refusing orders. His own command staff was questioning his decisions. Sir, his communications officer reported, we're receiving surrender requests from our own ships. They want to defect to the humans. This was the final insult. Not only had humans defeated the Velkhari military, but they had convinced alien soldiers to switch sides. Some Velkhari crew members were actually helping human forces attack their own fleet. The war ended not with a climactic battle, but with a simple transmission from Veltash to the human forces. We surrender, the message said. Please stop the attacks. We will withdraw from your system immediately. Admiral Lee Sang-woo accepted the surrender, but only on humanity's terms. The aliens would leave Earth's solar system and never return. They would release all prisoners taken during the occupation. Most importantly, they would provide Earth with complete technical specifications for their faster-than-light technology. Why should we trust you? Veltash asked during the negotiation. Because we're offering you something your empire has never experienced, Lee replied. Mercy. We could destroy your remaining ships and execute your crews. Instead, we're letting you go home. That's what civilized species do. The irony was not lost on anyone present. The primitive humans were showing more mercy than the advanced Velkhari had ever displayed. 10 years later, Ambassador Yu He-sun stood before the newly formed Galactic Council, representing Earth in its first formal diplomatic contact with alien civilizations. The council chamber was filled with representatives from dozens of species, many of them former subjects of the collapsed Velkari Empire. "Humanity seeks peaceful relations with all species," she declared. "We have no desire to conquer or subjugate anyone. But we will defend ourselves and our allies against any threat." The message was clear. Earth had become the unofficial protector of smaller species throughout the galaxy. The human reputation as the species you don't invade was firmly established. The Velkari Empire had completely collapsed within 5 years of their defeat at Earth. Their former subjects had liberated themselves using tactics and strategies learned from human broadcasts. Some ex-Velkari worlds had even requested human military advisors to help them establish their own defenses. Dr. Park Soo-jin, now Earth's chief scientific advisor, reflected on how much had changed. "They made the classic mistake," she observed. "They assumed that a species that fights with itself must be weak. They didn't understand that fighting each other had made us very good at fighting anyone." Earth had become the most feared military power in the galaxy, not because of superior technology, but because of superior tactics, psychology, and adaptability. Human military doctrine was being studied by species throughout the galaxy as the gold standard for effective warfare. But perhaps most importantly, humanity had achieved something unprecedented. They had become galactic peacekeepers not through conquest but through demonstrated strength. Other species knew that humans could defeat anyone who threatened them, which made everyone more reluctant to start conflicts. The galaxy had learned the lesson that humans had always known. Sometimes the best way to preserve peace is to be very, very good at war. Kang Hyun, now a general and Earth's chief military advisor, summed it up perfectly during a speech to the Galactic Council. "We didn't ask for this war. We didn't want to fight. But when someone threatened our world and our people, we showed them what happens when you pick a fight with a species that has spent its entire history learning how to win." The aliens had invaded Earth expecting an easy victory. Instead, they had created the galaxy's most effective military force and triggered the collapse of their own empire. It was, as the title suggested, a massive mistake. Huge.